My dad left a voicemail. Christmas is canceled. Expect a call from my lawyer. I didn't argue. Just texted back. Understood? Then I quietly removed my name from the $350. 000 mortgage. 2 weeks later, 67 missed calls. Their lawyer panicked, begged for an answer. My phone vibrated frantically on the kitchen counter. It was my dad again. Christmas is canceled. Expect a call from my lawyer. His voice in the message was cold. Clipped. The way he spoke when he wanted to make you feel worthless. I didn't call back. Didn't argue. I just sent it. Got it. And in the cold, calculating calm that washed over me, I opened my laptop. Within half an hour, my name was off the $350. 000 mortgage. Their precious home was no longer my problem. 2 weeks later, my phone was going crazy. 67 missed calls. My dad. My mom. Mia. Even a panicked voicemail from their lawyer. The one who probably told them how to screw me. Now he was pleading. Ryan, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. Please call your parents. They're very upset. I almost laughed. Upset, I scrolled through endless notifications. Messages. Voicemails. Even Mia's disparate messages. Ryan, what have you done? Dad is going crazy. You can't just cut off your family. But they've been doing worse things for years. And it all started with a dinner I shouldn't have gone to 3 weeks ago. Ryan, I told you, we can't take you on the trip this year. Mom said, barely looking up from her iPhone. The cabin is small. There's barely enough space. The cabin? I frowned, watching her scroll through Instagram with one hand and stir her expensive organic tea with the other. I thought you were having trouble paying your bills. Dad snorted. Don't start. Ryan, I don't need a financial advisor. If you're so worried, maybe you could Venmo us more this month. I'm already paying your mortgage, utilities, and Mia's car. Mia, lounging on the sofa like a queen. Didn't even blink. God, stop playing the hero. I've always helped. But it never seemed to be enough. Something tightened in my chest. Mia, I helped you pay off your credit card last month because you begged. I didn't beg. I asked. You're my brother. Family helps family. My father smirked. Listen to your sister. Stop being dramatic. Dramatic? You're going on vacation without even telling me. I'm being dramatic. It's just a trip. Ryan, Mom muttered with that pity in her voice that I hated. No big deal. No big deal. I laughed bitterly. Got it. Have fun. I turned to leave. But my father's voice caught up with me in the hallway. Don't be like that. Ryan, if you weren't spending money on your tiny apartment, maybe you could do something for your family. I froze. The air thickened around me. My fists clenched. Okay. I whispered. Got it. A week later, scrolling through Facebook, I came across a photo. Dad, Mom, and Mia, all smiling in front of a modest lake house. A family getaway. Our family, finally together. Our family, not a word about me. No invitation. Only about Mia's boyfriend, Jake. The phone vibrated again. Dad? Hey, can you send another $200? We're running low. The Wi-Fi is bad here. Venmo is better. I looked at the messages, then at the photos, their laughter, the way they hugged. My fingers typed by themselves. Sorry, I can't. Enjoy your family trip. 5 minutes later, a text arrived. Wow. Ryan, Seriously, what's your problem? My problem. My problem is, I was their wallet with a face. A backup plan. Only brought up when something broke, or they needed money. They thought, he'll never say no. They were wrong. I didn't hear from them for a whole week. Blissful silence. But on a cold Tuesday night, while I was cooking a late dinner, my phone vibrated. A notification. A tag in a Facebook post. Family is everything. Even when they hurt. It was Mia's profile picture. She was with our mother. Both were smiling. Dad was in the background. The comments were full of sympathy and hearts. Hang in there. Sweetheart. Family always finds a way back. Who did this to you? He's not worthy of you. I opened the comments and saw my father's response. Some people forget who took them in, who raised them. But God sees everything. I wanted to smash my phone, but I held back. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Instead, I opened the message. The last one from Mia. Wow. Ryan. What's your problem? I didn't answer. I scrolled past her requests for credit card money. Past the request to pick her up at 2:00 a.m. Past the accidentally sent Amazon wish list I'd paid for her birthday. And then I saw Mia's screenshots from 3 months ago. Ryan. Please. I'm in total trouble. If I don't pay, the card will be blocked. I'll pay it back. I swear. You know I'm reliable. I love you. Ryan. You're the only one who always helps. Lies. I saved them. That night I was digging through files I never thought I'd use. Messages. Transfers. A list of all their mortgage payments. My name on the account. My money leaking out month after month. I found a photo of the SUV I helped my dad buy. The very one he told everyone he bought with his own savings. A reward for years of hard work? By midnight, I had a folder. Screenshots. Documents. Even an audio recording of my dad yelling at me last Thanksgiving. If you don't want to help your family, don't come back. But don't come crying when you need something. I listened to it twice. It still stung. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I called Wells Fargo. Yes. I need to remove myself as a co-borrower. No. I don't care about their situation. Process this immediately. The woman on the line hesitated. Sir, this will trigger a reassessment of their mortgage. Are you sure? I smiled. Absolutely. She explained the process would take 10 to 14 business days. Perfect. 2 weeks later, the calls started. Ryan. How what have you done? My father's voice was a mixture of rage and despair. The bank called. They say we need to requalify. We can't afford it without your income. Not my problem. I said, sipping my coffee. Ryan. Are you crazy? We raised you. We cared for you. I laughed. I think I was only needed when you needed something. Those are two different things. How can you do this to family? Mom's voice burst in. Shrill and panicked. Family. You mean the family that went on a vacation without me? Or the one that called me dramatic when I couldn't afford to join silence? Just their heavy breathing. Ryan. Just fix it. My father growled. Be a man for once in your life. How can you beg for money while calling me useless behind my back? Stop it. He roared. You think you're so smart? Fine. Christmas is canceled. Wait for a call from the lawyer. I almost smiled. Got it. The next morning, a text came from Mia. Ryan. Please. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I didn't answer. 5 hours later, another one. Ryan. I'm serious. They're going crazy. Mom's crying. Dad's panicking. I didn't mean it like that. I kept quiet. By evening, the phone was in chaos. 23 missed calls. Then, a new number. A voicemail. Ryan. This is Mr. Davis, your parents' attorney. I think there's a misunderstanding. I'd like to settle this peacefully. Please call. I didn't call. I went to bed with a clear head for the first time in years. The next day, I decided to go for a walk. A quiet cafe is my favorite place. Away from everything. But halfway through my coffee, I saw my mom's post on Facebook. Sometimes even those you love betray you. We gave him everything. But some only know how to hurt. Dozens of comments from people I hadn't seen in years called me a monster. A snake. A selfish person. And Mia's comment, we did everything for him. He threw it all away. My blood ran cold. It's like that time my birthday party was canceled because Mia was tired. Or when my dad borrowed $5. 000 for emergency house repairs and spent it on a Vegas trip. Or the years when I paid their bills and they posted family photos without me. I finished my coffee, opened my phone, and wrote, sometimes family is just people using you. But I won't let myself be used anymore. The first comment was from Mia. Wow. Are you really making this public? Too bad. Then Mom, I don't even know who you are now. I didn't reply. I just attached a folder with screenshots. Payments. Messages. Their fake promises. And hit publish. 3 minutes later. The comments changed. Wait. Is this true? Ryan. They were telling everyone, you abandoned them. Dumb. This is crazy. Mom's profile disappeared an hour later. But the messages didn't stop. The phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Karon 20 missed calls. Then 60. Then 67. And voicemails? Please. Screams. Tears. The last one from my father was a whisper. Ryan. You can't do this. Please talk to me. I saved it and stepped away, letting them face the truth for themselves. But I wasn't done. I'd been thinking about this moment for months. Actually, see, there was something they didn't know. Last year, when Grandpa Joe got sick, I spent weeks helping him organize his affairs. During those long afternoons at his house, I told him everything about the money, the manipulation, the way they treated me like an ATM. Grandpa Joe had watched his son, my father, become entitled and greedy over the years. He'd seen how they used me, and it broke his heart. Ryan, he'd said one day, his weathered hands shaking as he signed documents. I'm changing my will. This family needs to learn that actions have consequences. I thought they'd shut up after the public humiliation. Give in. I underestimated them. The next morning, the phone didn't stop ringing. Calls. Messages from Dad. Mom. Mia. I ignored it all. Then the doorbell rang. I saw my grandfather through the peephole. I opened it. He walked in without a word, sat down at the kitchen table, and gestured for me to sit down. They're in complete disarray, he said, almost smiling. Your dad called me 3 times this morning, saying you're breaking up the family. I snorted. It's funny how they see that. My grandfather looked at me, his eyes sharper than usual. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm proud of you. You stood up to them. It was about time. It caught me off guard. Though I knew he'd been planning this. I didn't do it out of revenge. I said, I just couldn't let them use me anymore. He nodded, took a sip of the coffee I poured, and leaned back. Your father thinks he's invulnerable. He always did. He didn't expect his son to finally knock him down. The phone vibrated again. A voicemail. I put it on speaker. Ryan. Son. This has gone too far. We are your family. You can't just leave. Your mother can't stop crying. Mia won't leave her room. You've humiliated us. Please come back. Let's sort this out. Don't destroy the family. I looked at my grandfather. He shook his head. He's more worried about losing control than anything else. They always mistook your kindness for weakness. He was right. For the first time, I saw it clearly. All my life. I'd been reconciling, mediating, supporting my family financially. I thought it was my duty. But I'd only been enabling them. It wasn't easy. The breakup felt like losing a part of myself. But I understood, taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. I won't be going back. I said quietly. I'm no longer their safety net. Grandpa smiled. Good. And just so you know, I finalized the trust changes last week. You're the sole beneficiary now. They're out. 2 weeks passed. I settled into a new routine. Quiet mornings. Coffee by the window. No sudden calls. Asking for money or favors. I began to focus on my life for the first time in years. But one evening, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ryan. It's Mia. Her voice trembled. Almost frightened. What do you want? Just to talk. Please. I'm at a Starbucks near your house. 5 minutes, and that's it. He hesitated, but agreed. Something in her voice aroused curiosity. When I arrived, she was sitting by the window, staring into her cup, and then looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. You look terrible, I said, not meaning to be cruel. She didn't argue. I know. I've been thinking about everything. About what I did. How we treated you. It was wrong. I sat down across from her. It only just dawned on you. No. I'd known for a long time. I just didn't care. You always made things right. Even when we hurt you. I thought that was just how it was supposed to be. But it's not. She nodded. Her hands shaking. Mom and Dad are going crazy. Trying to figure out how to save the house. Dad even looked at payday loans. But his credit is destroyed. Mom blames me for everything. She says, if I hadn't been so selfish, we wouldn't have lost him. I remained silent, letting her speak. I'm sorry. Ryan, she whispered, barely raising her eyes. I know it won't fix anything. I just wanted you to know. I took a deep breath. You know what the worst part was? I always wanted to help. But nothing was ever enough. You demanded more. And when I finally stopped, you acted like I'd betrayed you. Mia wiped her eyes. You're right. I didn't see it that way. I thought you'd always be there. Not anymore. She nodded, looking defeated. I'll leave you alone. I just wanted to say, as she stood up to leave, I called. Mia. She turned around. Surprised. Get your life together. Stop relying on others to solve your problems. You're old enough to take responsibility. She smiled weakly. Brokenly. I'm trying. Okay, I didn't offer forgiveness. I wasn't ready yet. But I didn't push her away either. That night, Grandpa Joe called. Your father is still trying to save face. He tells everyone that you'll come to your senses, that you're just going through a phase. I couldn't help but laugh. He really can't accept that I'm done. He never will. But that's not your problem anymore. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. The truth was out. The game was over. I didn't know what would happen next. But for the first time, I felt no fear. Only peace. I was free. A story too. I invited my family to the grand opening of my ideal bakery. None of them appeared. Instead, they all attended Rosie's promotion celebration. At 32, I finally launched Sweet Gatherings, the bakery I had dreamt of since I was a young girl. Dad contacted me while I was closing up by myself, saying, "We need to discuss the bakery." My name is Eileen. I stood by myself in an empty store, watching Instagram swell with pictures from my sister Rose's promotion party. After personally inviting my whole family, every member of the family chose the same party over my grand opening. My phone chimed with a text from Dad as I was locking up and fighting back tears. "We must talk about the bakery. Prior to sharing with you how my family shattered my hopes on what ought to have been the most joyous day of my life. My family in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up, not just anticipated, but required achievement, at one of the most prominent legal companies in the Pacific Northwest, Whitman and Associates. My father, James, had a reputation as a ruthless lawyer. He represented clients whose names often appeared in business journals and focused on corporate law, despite missing most of my school functions and working 80 hours a week. Dad never stopped reminding us that his sacrifices were what kept us in our social standing and placed food on the table. My mother, Diane. I was able to retain our family's social standing while juggling her work as a hospital administrator. With clinical efficiency, she managed our home, planning our activities with the same level of accuracy that she applied to hospital sections. In her mental ledger of family success, each accomplishment was marked with a check mark, and she gave bonus points for achievements that could be brought up at country club breakfasts or charity events. Then there were my brothers, who both exemplified what success meant to my parents. Tyler, my 5-year-old elder brother, followed in his father's footsteps and entered the demanding field of finance. By the age of 25, he was already working as an investment banker in New York, giving pricey but impersonal birthday presents, and making fleeting appearances during holidays while constantly discussing transactions and market trends that I could not comprehend. Rosie, my 9-year-old younger sister, was the marketing whiz. She worked her way up the corporate ladder at IT Fusion, one of those hip IT businesses that serve cold coffee and have beanbag chairs. Every promotion, pay raise, and corporate benefit Rosie displayed on her well-curated social media accounts made her parents smile with pleasure. Then came me, the middle kid who always had flowers beneath her fingernails. I first fell in love with baking in my Grandma Eliza's kitchen when I was 8 years old. Grandma Eliza taught me how to feel the ideal dough consistency between my fingers. While my parents encouraged Tyler and Rosie to pursue academic contests and esteemed internships, she would invite me to her little home on the outskirts of town, where we would spend hours baking together. Whenever I was feeling anxious about school, "Baking is love made visible," she would remark, guiding my hands as we formed cinnamon buns. "You are tasting your heart when someone bites into something you've made." Those words became ingrained in my spirit and took root. My siblings gathered awards and accolades, but I gathered recipes, recording every method Grandma Eliza taught me in a special notebook with my own modifications in the margins. I tried out different flavors and textures, bringing my creations to school bake sales, where they consistently garnered the highest sales. "It is a great interest, Eileen," my mother would remark, stressing the term hobby in that specific tone that made it obvious it was not to be mistaken with a job. "But you need to concentrate on things that enhance your college applications." My family thought my enthusiasm was charming but unimportant. My second mentor was Mrs. Bailey, the owner of Bailey's Bake Shop, where I began working after school during my junior year of high school. Grandma Eliza taught me traditional recipes that have been passed down through the generations, and Mrs. Bailey showed me the business side of baking by teaching me about customer service, inventory management, and profit margins. Mrs. Bailey told me, You have magic in your hands. After I decorated a particularly difficult wedding cake. Not everyone can do what you do. Never let anyone convince you that your talent is just a hobby. Most importantly, she showed me that my dream could be a viable career. When it came time to apply to colleges, my parents encouraged me to enroll in pre-med programs. I made a compromise by majoring in business with a minor in culinary science because my father said, "You've always been good at chemistry." As if my ability to balance tastes and comprehend the chemical processes in baking somehow translated to a desire to become a doctor. To Eileen. The will read. Who knows that the most important ingredients in any recipe are passion and love? Grandma Eliza died during my sophomore year of college. And I was shocked to discover that she had left me her modest savings account. I had assumed that this combination would prepare me for my true goal, while pleasing my parents. After graduation, I worked 3 jobs to save more money for my bakery, while my siblings started their remarkable professions. The inheritance was not enough to operate a bakery right once. But it was seed money, a vote of confidence from the one person who had always believed in my goal. My family saw this time as my period of self-discovery, expecting me to eventually give up and pursue a real career. I worked as a barista in the mornings, an office assistant during the day, and on the weekends, I made custom cakes and pastries from my small apartment kitchen. Dad would casually mention at holiday dinners that I could still apply to law school, and my firm is always looking for bright young associates. Mom would add that the hospital has a management training program. I could say something nice, but every year I became more and more clear about my vision for Sweet Gatherings. I didn't want just any bakery. I wanted a place that reflected the coziness of Grandma Eliza's kitchen. A place where people could come together and share delectable, thoughtfully prepared food. For 7 years after college, I worked and saved, researched locations. I honed my business plan and developed my recipe portfolio. I dreamed of a place with cozy seating, where neighbors would become friends, and where families would develop traditions around my seasonal specialties. I wanted display cases full of both creative creations and perfected classics, including many of Grandma Eliza's recipes. Even though my family still thought it was a phase I would eventually outgrow, every step I took moved me closer to my dream. After years of looking, I finally found the ideal venue for Sweet Gatherings, a corner storefront in a neighborhood undergoing revitalization with large windows that let in an abundance of natural light, thanks to Grandma Eliza's bequest and years of diligent saving. The building was within my budget. Plus, it had history with exposed brick walls and old hardwood floors that required refinishing, but would be lovely with some care. A retail lease in this economy, Dad's voice carried the same tone he used when discussing risky investments with clients. Send me the paperwork before you sign anything. Better yet, I could invest in this venture and help guide it properly. I knew what that meant. When I called my family to share the exciting news about signing the lease, their reactions were exactly as I had expected, but disappointing nonetheless. Mom's answer was similarly depressing. Honey, the restaurant industry has such a high failure rate. It is not too late to apply to graduate school. Dad's investment would come with control, his vision taking precedence over mine until lovely gatherings were no longer identifiable from my ideal. I met Dr. Levinson said last week that their hospital administration program was still accepting applications. Rosie's sarcastic remarks when I called her were more hurtful than her direct criticism. Wow. You're going all out with the baking project. That's really brave of you. I could never risk my financial stability for a passion project. But that's what makes you unique, isn't it? You've always gone against the grain. When I finally managed to get Tyler on the phone, his response was succinct and business-oriented. Send me your business plan and 5-year projections. Did you account for first-year losses? What is your marketing budget? Have you stress-tested your financial model? No, congratulations. No excitement. I'm just instant skepticism and an assumption of failure. Tyler was the hardest to reach because he was always between meetings or flights. Notwithstanding their responses, I threw myself into setting up the place, working with contractors to make the necessary renovations, navigating the complicated world of business licenses and health permits, and perfecting my menu. Each night, I went to bed exhausted, but satisfied that I had come one day closer to achieving my goal. During this time, I started making friends with nearby business owners. We newcomers need to stick together, Annie said one day as we sat on paint buckets in my half-renovated space. This neighborhood has real community potential, and businesses like yours will be at the center of it. Annie from Bloom and Grow Flowers next door stopped by frequently with coffee and encouragement. Marcus from Cornerstone Books across the street gave me marketing advice and promised to stock my pastries in his Reading Nook cafe. I developed James's Power Breakfast Scone with espresso and dark chocolate as part of a special menu inspired by my family, in the hopes that their namesake creations would convey what I found difficult to articulate in words that dispute our differences. They remained important to me. At the heart of my display arrangement was a special space devoted to Grandma Eliza, for Dad Diane's sophisticated Earl Grey cake with lavender buttercream, Mom Tyler's Wall Street walnut brownies with cream cheese swirls, and Rosie's marketing whiz macaronis in vibrant, Instagram-worthy hues. In honor of her influence, I remodeled her old wooden rolling pin and put it on a custom shelf, framed her photo next to her handwritten recipe cards for apple pie and cinnamon rolls, the first recipes she ever taught me, and sent personalized invitations to every member of the family 3 weeks prior to the opening. Well, and try to make it, if court adjourns early. Dad texted, penciling it in. But board meetings that week might run long. Mom replied, sounds fun. I invested more than I should have on the elegant design, choosing thick cream cardstock with gold embossing. Each invitation included a personal note expressing how much their presence would mean to me on this important day. Rosie said, work is stressful right now, but we'll see what I can do. Tyler just replied, we'll check the schedule in meetings that week. I made an effort to keep my enthusiasm high, despite their lackluster reactions. Maybe they would see the completed bakery and view things differently. Perhaps they would better appreciate my devotion if they sampled the creations named after them. Rosie gave me a call with her news a week before, to my big opening. I was promoted to Director of Senior Marketing. She let out a shriek into the telephone. Next Saturday, the firm will celebrate with a big party. Everyone will be present. You'll arrive on time. When I discovered that her party was planned on the same day as my big opening, my heart fell. My phone rang with texts from my folks before I could reply. Have you heard Rosie's wonderful news after Rose's promotion celebration? My pleased mother texted to make a reservation for dinner at Morton's. Dad sent the message. Family table. For 5. The connotation was evident as I looked at my phone. They had known for weeks that my big opening conflicted with their preparations for Rosie's party, and they had thrown me into the mix without even realizing it. They responded quickly and eloquently when I gently reminded them of the dispute. Your sister's accomplishment is once in a lifetime, Mom said, as if years of preparation and labor could just be postponed. Dad said, you can have a soft opening another day. I forced myself to ignore my disappointment and concentrate on the last preparations. Marketing materials were sent. The room was gorgeous. The menu was finalized. And even a little article was published in the neighborhood newspaper. To be sure, everything would go according to plan. I planned my day in 15-minute intervals, bought additional items, and made backup plans. On the eve of the opening, I stood in the finished area and marveled at my fantasy come true. The screen my works were waiting to be placed in cases. Little vases were placed on the tables, ready to hold fresh flowers. On the counter, the coffee maker shone brightly. I let hope blossom in spite of my family's lack of excitement. Perhaps all would change when you saw the completed bakery in all its splendor. At 3, I woke up. On the day of opening, 30 a.m., too thrilled to sleep. I made a minute-by-minute timetable and started making my bakery a reality. As I prepared the day's offerings, the aroma of freshly made bread and vanilla cinnamon permeated the kitchen. From the delicate fruit tarts to the substantial artisanal loaves, every pastry was lovingly and precisely made. By 7, rows of exquisitely arranged pastries, each accompanied by handwritten notes outlining the ingredients and inspiration. I had taken over the display cases. The family-inspired products held prominent places, ready for the individuals who inspired them to admire them. At 7, 3, 0, and 30, Annie came with a special bouquet for the counter and fresh flower arrangements for every table. She gave me a tight hug and insisted that these be on the house. It's your time to shine today. Soon after, Marcus made an appearance with a handcrafted sign for his bookstore window that pointed customers to the grand opening. He put a small wrapped package on the counter and said, "I told all my regulars to stop by. A present for a business warming allers. Later, open it." I looked at my phone as the official opening time of 9 o'clock drew near. My family has not sent me any messages. I included a picture of the finished bakery in a group text. Everything is ready to open. I hope to see you shortly. No answer. I switched the sign to open, opened the doors, and greeted my first clients at 9 o'clock. The morning hours were packed with a constant flow of neighbors and interested locals. Many of them lingered to savor their goodies at the tables after placing coffee and pastry orders. The comments were largely favorable. "These cinnamon rolls are the best I have ever had," one lady said. A guy in a business suit said, "I am definitely making this my regular morning stop." I kept checking the door and my phone in between, serving customers. My heart jumped every time the bell above the entryway sounded, hoping it might be a member of the family. I always checked my phone as soon as it buzzed, only to discover alerts from service providers or congrats from pals. I had served a few dozen customers by 11. But the faces I most wanted to see were still not there. I texted my family once more. "Excellent attendance so far. There are special suites waiting for you with your names on them." No answer. I quickly regretted checking social media during a small pause around lunchtime. Despite the early hour, my account was flooded with pictures from Rosie's promotion party, which was already in full flow. In a stylish hotel ballroom, a father was toasting with champagne. The banner, congratulating Director Rosie, was being adjusted by Mom as they posed for a professional photographer, Tyler, who had evidently flown in for the occasion, put his arm around Rosie. My mother's post had the most painful caption: "We are quite proud of our daughter's achievement." The whole family came together to commemorate this amazing accomplishment. The whole family, except me. As the midday throng started to gather, I put my phone aside and forced a grin, even while a steady flow of clients remained. The initial rush had subsided, and it was obvious that opening day sales would fall short of my expectations. Despite the sincere excitement of those who did appear, every hour that went by with empty tables seemed like a personal failure. A local reporter who had pledged to cover the opening showed up from the neighborhood about 2 Lucy Chen. Chronicle monitored my increasingly false grins and noted how often I looked toward the door. She politely inquired. Family couldn't make it. During her discussion with me about the bakery, I thought about lying, but decided to tell the plain truth instead. They had another obligation. Lucy's eyes became softer with comprehension. Her interview questions changed to highlight my love of baking and my idea of using sweet events as a forum for community building. Her generosity almost caused me to lose my professional poise. But I was able to keep a grin on my face until she departed, promising a feature in the next issue. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the reality could not be avoided. No one from the family had arrived. Not single one had texted or phoned throughout the workday. I made some special sweets in their celebration, but they were mostly unsold. My innocent optimism was painfully brought back to me by their handmade name cards. There were hardly no customers left as closing time drew near. I started the cleanup by wiping off countertops, cleaning dishes, storing unsold pastries, and using mechanical motions. Basic costs had been met by the day sales, but nothing more. Posts from Rose's celebration kept coming up on social media. Each one, a new wound. Videos of speeches, pictures of pricey presents, and pictures of the family I was born into, enjoying the festivities without me. Finally, 15 minutes before closing, at 6,045, my phone buzzed with a text message from my dad. We must talk about the bakery. No congrats. No justification for their absence. No recognition of my accomplishment. No acknowledgement of their violated attendance commitments. Just a business-like message that suggested issues needed to be resolved. The feelings I had been repressing all day suddenly surfaced as I shut the front door and flipped the sign to closed. I collapsed to the ground and wept, alone in my lovely bakery, surrounded by the tangible realization of my ambition and the proof of my family's lack of concern. I'm not sure how long I sat there in tears when I was startled by a soft rap on the glass. Annie and outside. Marcus stood with worried faces looking in. I brushed away my tears and let them to fall. Annie replied, "We thought you might need friends tonight," while displaying a bottle of champagne. A good celebration is necessary on the first day of business, Marcus added, pulling 3 glasses out of a tote bag. Whether it was perfect or not, as we sat at one of the tables toasting my bakery in spite of the day's setbacks, it seemed to me that the family I was born into could never comprehend or appreciate my goal. I was elbowed deep in dough when the bells above the door jingled. But maybe I was discovering a new kind of family right here in this neighborhood with people who showed up when it mattered. The morning after my grand opening, I arrived at the bakery early to get ready for my second day of business. Determined to move forward, despite yesterday's disappointment. 30 minutes before opening time, I looked at my watch and saw that I had neglected to lock the front door. "Sorry. We are not open yet," I yelled out, without looking up from my work. That is apparent from the empty tables, my father's clear voice said, and my head sprang up. My whole family was there, coming into my bakery like a corporate delegation, with Dad leading the way in a leather portfolio from a business suit tucked under one arm and Mom following her critical eyes, picking up on every detail with the same look she used when she inspected hospital departments. With sunglasses on her head and a tablet in her hand that showed Tyler's face, apparently video chatting in from New York, Rosie walked into the next fancy handbag, swinging from her elbow. "What are you doing here? We need to talk about the bakery situation," Dad said, choosing the biggest table and motioning for everyone to sit down. "I am getting ready for customers," I remarked. Looking at the time, family meeting. I questioned, wiping flour from my hands. "We will open in half an hour." I flinched, but tried to keep my cool. "You noticed none of you were here yesterday," Mom said, in a sympathetic tone. "But I doubt you will be overwhelmed with business." Rosie yoked, tapping her phone. Because social media exists for a reason. The geotags and check-ins for this place were barely disrupting the internet. They had been watching my opening day from a distance while celebrating Rosie, and the realization added new hurt to yesterday's wounds. My brother's little voice came out of the tablet, and I looked over the foot traffic patterns and neighborhood demographics. This place has problematic fundamentals for a specialty food business. "We have been discussing your situation, and we think we have a solution that will minimize damage." I echoed anger simmering beneath my shock as Dad opened his portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers. Honey Mom leaned forward, her voice lowering to the soft tone she used when breaking bad news to hospital patients. As Dad continued, slipping paperwork over the table. "We can help you sell this place before you lose everything. We all understand the appeal of following a dream. but sometimes dreams need to be adjusted to align with reality. A commercial real estate agent with expertise in restaurant properties has been approached by me. He thinks we can get you out of this lease and recover part of your investment with little damage. I looked at the documents and saw they were pre-filled listing agreements that I could sign before they even saw my bakery open for business for a day. They had already made them. Mom took out a number of folded papers from her handbag. I decided to fill out applications for 3 medical schools that allow late admissions, with the correct personal statement outlining this detour. You may start courses this fall since your undergraduate grades were good enough. Tyler seemed almost bored on the television. I've done the math. Eileen, you have 4 months to become insolvent based on your location and industry statistics. The 6th option is to dramatically reduce spending, which would worsen quality and hasten the failure cycle. At last, Rosie, who had been photographing my bakery throughout their chat, joined in. Look, there is some good news. I persuaded my supervisor to create a marketing department, entry-level post. Despite the low compensation, you may advance rapidly given your background. I'm not meant to be partial. Yet she shrugged, indicating that this was a significant concession made out of sympathy. As they described my shortcomings and their remedies, they kept talking over each other. My fantasy turned into an issue that needed their help. My years of labor were written off as a time of misdirection. Yesterday, their absence was reframed as logical distance instead of painful desertion. The bells above the door jingled once more while they conversed. And Mrs. Bailey entered with a little basket of gifts. When she saw my family seated around the table, she abruptly stopped. She walked up smiling and said, Eileen, dear, I came to congratulate you on your opening. Is this your family? Dad looked up with a disdainful look he saved for military people. We are now having a private conversation. Mrs. Bailey's grin remained unwavering. Perhaps you could come back during business hours. Bailey's Bake Shop is owned by myself, Adelaide Bailey. Now that we have 5 stores, it's Bailey's Bake Shops. Dad looked more interested in shaking her hand as she held it out. Since I've known Eileen since she was 16, I've seen her extraordinary skill. Subtly, the atmosphere changed. Mrs. Bailey was conversant in the language of success, which my family understood. Mom sat up, straight in her seat. Rosie put her phone down. Tyler's face sharpened with interest. Even on the tablet screen. 5 places. Dad said again, in a field that is so competitive, it is quite an achievement. Mrs. Bailey put the gift basket on the counter and said, yes, which is why I have total faith in Eileen's success. Her business sense and inventiveness make me think of myself at her age. She looked to me with true pride, even though I dare claim her technical talents were superior to mine at the time. I wanted to express my regret for missing your opening and deliver this welcome basket. There was a delay on my flight from the Chicago Baking Conference, like the smell of burned sugar. The contrast between my family's total absence despite weeks of warning and Mrs. Bailey's heartfelt apologies for missing one day lingered in the air. Mrs. Bailey went on, apparently unaware of the tension. You know, during our neighborhood baking club, Eliza was always talking about her granddaughter's skill. Eileen. She always thought you would exceed everyone's expectations. She thought your real talent was your comprehension of the unifying power of food. A recollection came to mind. Suddenly, it was terrible and piercing. Grandma Eliza is attempting to get my parents to come to my culinary display in high school. Her look was unsurprised, yet saddened by their courteous rejections. They would never comprehend my enthusiasm. She had always knew. In that instant, something inside of me broke and reformed, becoming stronger and more distinct. I interrupted Tyler's financial argument on the tablet and said, "Why did none of you come yesterday?" An awkward hush descended. My family looked at one another and spoke in a familiar, quiet tone. Mom remarked, We told you Rose's promotion party. At last, Dad went on. It was a conflict we could not avoid. The company's CEO was there. Rosie said. It was a turning point in my career. I gave a headshake. At noon, the celebration began. At 9 o'clock, I opened. You may have arrived for as little as half an hour. Any one of you, more awkward, quiet. Tell me the truth. Please. I pushed. Be honest for once about why my dream, my bakery wasn't worth even a fleeting presence. The truth was eventually revealed by Tyler. Perhaps his online persona makes being honest easier. After some discussion, the family concluded that going to Rosie's celebration sent the proper message about the accomplishments that the family valued. The words struck me like a punch to the body. You all spoke about it. Together. You decided not to back me up. Mom raised her chin defiantly. But she reddened. Eileen. Genuine accomplishments call for meaningful celebrations. Your sister has put forth a great deal of effort to get her job. Furthermore, I haven't. I raised my voice and pointed around my bakery. I saved for this property over the course of 7 years. By working 3 jobs, I have developed a business strategy, negotiated a lease, tested hundreds of recipes, worked with permits and health regulations, and made something out of nothing. Why isn't it an accomplishment? It's a good effort. Dad observed condescendingly. However, let's be honest about the distinction between being the youngest director of a Fortune 500 firm and starting a tiny bakery. We're attempting to assist you. Mom said. Dad tapped the listing agreements before this scenario became any worse financially. Eileen, you have 2 options. You may either sign these documents and start the process of getting out of this predicament with our assistance, or you can keep going in this direction without our financial or other assistance. Between us, the ultimatum lingered. As I examined each of their features, I saw sincere conviction that they were operating in my best interests rather than malice, since what I had created did not fit their idea of success. They were really unable to perceive its worth. Mrs. Bailey put her hand on my shoulder to stabilize me. As they waited for opening time, the first customers of the day were looking through the front windows. I responded softly. I think you all should go now. I have a company to manage. The tone of Eileen Dad's voice hardened. No. The word sounded more forceful than I had anticipated. You have always seen my interest as a passing fad to outgrow a pastime, an indulgence, or an error to fix. Yesterday was the most significant day of my career, and not a single one of you turned there. Now, before my dream has even had a chance to come true, you come with intentions to destroy it. I don't need your assistance. Not in this manner. I approached and held open the door. Leave now. Please. Clients are awaiting service. Their faces ranged from disbelief to hurt to anger as they carefully collected their documents. Dad stopped as they filed, past me, silently. This conversation is not over, he murmured. When you are ready to be reasonable, I call us. The bells rang as they left, and I greeted my first clients with a polished grin that concealed the inner turmoil. The saddest week since we started hosting pleasant gatherings was the week after my family's spontaneous intervention. Their remarks had sown doubts that deepened with every sluggish business day. Even though I had taken a courageous stance that morning, I lost the enthusiasm that had formerly driven each batch of dough. And I found myself just going through the rituals of managing the bakery. As my personal excitement dwindled, so did sales. The cuisine and the ambiance were different enough for patrons to notice. My pastries, which had previously been baked with love and care, that were now manufactured, technically, but lacked the unique touch that had made them stand out. Annie saw the shift right away. She started coming over every day, sometimes bringing lunch, and other times simply sitting with me when I had free time. Marcus made it a practice to remain, to assist with cleanup, and bring coffee in the afternoon. When it seemed easier to give up, their silent support kept me going. In the meanwhile, my family persisted in their campaign of worried coercion. The real estate agent will be ready when you are. According to the texts Dad sends every day, Mom sent along letters like just keeping options open for you. How dear, along with information on medical school orientations. Not so subtly, Roz posted on social media about failing ahead and understanding when to change course. Tyler provided spreadsheets that accurately and clinically projected the demise of my company. The most agonizing turning point was when I learned that my family had deliberately dissuaded extended family members from lending assistance to my company via a casual remark made by a distant cousin who visited the bakery. We were informed that you needed room to go through the process, and were figuring things out. Uncomfortably, she explained. If not, everyone would have attended your opening. Every night I came home to my apartment emotionally and physically spent. The bakery was having trouble gaining traction. But it wasn't completely failing. The foot activity in the area was not turning into regular clients as quickly as I had anticipated. It took time and effort that I was finding more difficult to muster every day to provide the specific touches that made lovely gatherings memorable. 2 weeks after opening, I found a dusty box I had packed but forgotten when organizing a storage cabinet to make way for more supplies. The recipe diary, with its handwriting and margin comments, belonged to Grandma Eliza. A sealed envelope with my name inscribed in her wobbly handwriting slipped out as I turned the pages of the familiar book. She must have put it there before she passed away. I realized as I glanced at it. Maybe I was expecting to discover that when I opened my bakery. I cracked the seal with shaking fingers and unfolded the letter. It said, "My dearest Ellen, first, you have the bravery to follow your ambition, in spite of all the challenges. If you are reading this, I've always known you would. I noticed a unique talent in you from the moment your little hands first pressed dough next to mine, not only for baking, but also for seeing how food fosters happiness and human connection. As I read on, tears clouded my eyes. It's possible that your parents and siblings may never comprehend your enthusiasm as well as I do, whereas you measure success by the joy you bring into the world. Others gauge it by the norms of society. Never question the legitimacy and worth of your route. Neither is incorrect, just different. Just as much as the world needs experts and executives, it also needs artists and nurturers." The letter went on to detail particular recollections of our time together, as well as her views of my development as a baker. She spoke about the recipes we developed together, the methods she taught me, and the times my distinct viewpoint enhanced a conventional method. Remind yourself, sweetie, that success is determined by your own sense of satisfaction from your job and the lives you change with your skills, not by the approval of others. Seeing you find your passion has brought me the most happiness. I really hope you will take care of it even if others don't realize its value. The postscript at the end of the letter breached the emotional dam. Love is the real secret ingredient in every dish. Since you are the only one who really understands this, your bakery will be successful. Grasping her letters, I sat on the floor of the storage room and wept till my eyes stopped. Then, for the first time in weeks, I experienced an inward change. Not because I took a different route, but because of it, Grandma Eliza had always had faith in me. Her approval has never depended on my meeting conventional success criteria. She had cherished me for who I was. I woke up the next morning feeling more clear-headed than I had been since the opening. I started developing new recipes as soon as I got to the bakery early. Not the generally unsold family tribute things, but rather works of art that were authentic to my tastes. I created a lemon lavender shortbread that embodied the understated elegance I found appealing. I developed a dark chocolate cherry sourdough that was both comforting and sophisticated. I developed a seasonal fruit galette that looked chaotic and rustic. Yet the tastes were so well balanced that clients closed their eyes in admiration after just one mouthful. When Annie went by that afternoon, she saw the difference right away. Her words. "The light is back in your eyes." "What happened?" I said, pointing to the letter from Grandma Eliza, explaining that it had brought back memories of my initial motivation for baking. "I've been attempting to demonstrate my value to others who have different standards." "You know," Annie observed seriously, "we newcomers to this neighborhood are all struggling with the slow build of customer awareness. What if we created an event together, something to showcase all our businesses and build community connection? Maybe it's time for me to stop looking for their validation." The idea took root and started to grow. And for the first time since my disastrous opening day, I felt excitement bubbling up again. Marcus, who had come with his usual afternoon coffee, overheard the suggestion and immediately built upon it. A community gathering, exactly what your bakery is named for. We could have readings from local authors at my shop. Annie could arrange mini classes. You could arrange featured pastries. A vision based on community connection rather than family validation. Not the desperate hope for approval that had tainted my grand opening. That week, Lucy Chen, the reporter who had covered my opening, called to check in on how business was going. And she immediately offered to write a feature piece when I mentioned the community event we were planning. "The Chronicle prefers to emphasize local business collaborations like this one," she said. "A joint event with several new companies could attract attention from all over the city, not just the neighborhood." That night, I made the hardest choice I've had to make since starting the bakery. I blended ingredients from two of my grandmother's favorite recipes to create a new trademark dish called Eliza's Legacy. A cinnamon roll with apple filling and brown butter icing, along with a little letter explaining its importance. I put it in my display case in a prominent location. I didn't send out invites to the next community event or make any new goods with my immediate family's names on them. I would no longer frantically try to win their presence or approval. But the news would still be shared on social media and via local channels. That evening, while I was locking up the bakery, my phone buzzed with another text message from my dad. "The market for commercial real estate is booming. Before values continue to drop, we should list as soon as possible. Give me a call." When I received his letter, I did not experience any agony or uncertainty for the first time. Rather, I had the serene assurance that I was making my own decisions. Whether Sweet Gathering was successful, it would be on my terms and represent my vision, rather than being a compromise meant to get acceptance that I would never get. As Annie, Marcus, and I organized our community meeting, the 3 weeks after I found Grandma Eliza's letter were occupied with intentional tasks. When other local businesses joined us, what started off as a straightforward cross-promotion turned into a neighborhood-wide celebration. Outfits for a little fashion display were given by the vintage clothes store down the street. To go with my pastries, the small brewery down the block made a unique pale ale. In the park across from our stores, the yoga studio even consented to provide complimentary mini-sessions. I put more emphasis on genuine connection than on getting approval from others. From meticulously planned culinary photographs to behind-the-scenes looks into bakery life, my social media approach changed. I spoke about my experiences developing recipes, including the triumphs and the mistakes. Regular customers who met at my tables developed connections, which I wrote about. The reaction was immediate and favorable. And as more individuals identified with the real experience, rather than a staged facade, engagement rose. 2 weeks before, Lucy Chen's story had been published in the local Chronicle. Our event showcased the new firm's attitude of cooperation. Eileen Marshall, owner of Sweet Gatherings Bakery, is a perfect example of the neighborhood reviving company that is centered on the community. She said that her method views food as a means of fostering personal connection, as well as a product. The piece received a lot of internet attention from food bloggers and citywide newspapers. Many of my social media fans expressed enthusiasm about the impending event, which led to a steady increase in my following. For the first time, I felt that my bakery was really taking off, propelled by true desire rather than duty. I posted public announcements on various media, but I didn't invite my family to the community event. They would be free to choose whether or not to go based on their curiosity, rather than persuasion or guilt. Early fall weather was ideal on the morning of the event. It was bright enough for outside activities, but yet chilly enough to make hot beverages attractive. Since midnight, I had been baking and preparing an enlarged menu that included unique delicacies made, especially for the day, as well as client favorites. Such a prominent display of Eliza's famous cinnamon buns. Annie brought beautiful flower arrangements for the bakery's front, and inside, when she arrived at daybreak, Marcus arranged books with baking-related topics on a book exchange cart. There was already a queue outside Sweet Gatherings by 9. An hour before the official opening. This is really taking place. As we looked out the window at the expanding throng, I murmured to Annie. She squeezed my hand and said, "This is what happens when you build something authentic." The community I had imagined when I named my bakery was coming to life as we opened the doors and people began to pour in, filling the bakery with conversation and energy. Within the first hour, Eliza's legacy sold out, and the display cases were emptied faster than I could refill them. Every table was crowded with customers, sharing space with strangers who soon became conversation partners. A familiar face walked up to the counter in the middle of the morning. Mrs. Bailey was standing there with 3 other women, all of whom were beaming with pride. She introduced them to Eileen, saying, "These are some of my former employees who've gone on to open their own successful bakeries. We have developed a sort of mentorship network, and we would love to have you join us." With my phone buzzing with notifications as I thanked her, overwhelmed by the offer, I realized that I had underestimated turnout by noon. Photos from the community gathering were being shared widely, including by food influencers who had traveled specifically to attend, and the hashtag number gatherings was trending locally, with people posting pictures of their purchases and the lively atmosphere. I had prepared a lot, but my pastry supplies were getting dangerously low, and I was thinking of closing early when Lucy Chen showed up with the owner of Riverfront Restaurant, one of the city's most well-known farm-toteable restaurants. "Mark has an interesting proposition for you," Lucy said after introducing us. "Your flavor profiles and commitment to quality ingredients aligned perfectly with our ethos," he said, adding, "We would start with a small weekly order. But if it works well, we could expand significantly. He has been sampling your pastries and wants to talk about a possible partnership." Mark explained that he had been looking for a local bakery to supply bread and desserts for his restaurant. While I was talking to Mark about logistics, I noticed a woman using a professional camera to take pictures of my menu and display case. She handed me her card and said, "We focus on innovative local businesses that contribute to neighborhood revitalization. As a representative of the Small Business Development Grant Committee, I would love to email you grant application documents." The day proceeded to beyond all expectations. Your cooperative approach with nearby firms is just the kind of economic development model we wish to encourage. As I counted receipts that night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unexpected source. My father had sent a formal message. "I saw the coverage of your event today." By closing time, Sweet Gatherings had served more customers in one day than in the entire previous week. Every pastry had sold. Business relationships had been formed. And most importantly, the bakery had established itself as a true community hub. Congratulations on the turnout. If you're interested, I'm available to talk about business growth strategies. He acknowledged the observable success without showing any warmth or admitting his past dismissiveness. The rest of the family quickly followed, sending messages like, "Mom, your bakery looked lovely in the photos online. My team was talking about it today. Tyler Wholesale Accounts offers steady revenue streams. The restaurant connection is worthwhile. The flower arrangements were gorgeous. You always did have an eye for aesthetics. Rosie, that social media strategy is generating serious engagement. Clever approach targeting the community angle. Although their messages showed their unchanging perspectives, each seeing my accomplishment through their own professional lens, rather than comprehending what genuinely meant to me, there was a new tone of respect. If reluctant, in their interactions, they may provide comparative analysis if needed. In the weeks that followed, Sweet Gatherings grew steadily, and the partnership with Riverfront Restaurant brought a steady stream of wholesale income to stabilize finances. I politely but succinctly responded to each, neither asking for their approval nor rejecting their tentative overtures, and I continued to focus on building what I had started rather than vindicating myself in their eyes. The small business grant application made it to the final round of consideration. A number of other restaurants contacted us with similar questions. And most importantly, regular patrons started to form relationships with people whose names and preferences I learned about, whose lives intersected with mine through the straightforward medium of food shared in a welcoming space. I hired my first employee, Jessica, a culinary school graduate who shared my belief that food can be a tool for connection. After Sweet Gatherings recorded its first consistently successful week, a month after the community gathering event, my family kept a cautious distance, occasionally sending messages that indicated they were keeping an eye on my progress from a distance. But there was always an undercurrent of surprise at my continued success, as if they were still waiting for the failure they had predicted. Having help in the kitchen allowed me to concentrate more on the creative development and community building aspects of the business. In this new chapter, I found a quiet confidence growing, and Sweet Gatherings were becoming exactly what I had imagined, not because I had finally won my family's approval, but because I had stopped measuring success by their standards and started living according to my own. I responded with courteous updates, but no longer felt the desperate need for their understanding that had once consumed me. Sweet Gatherings had grown beyond my original concept in the most amazing ways 6 months after the community gathering event. The bakery had become a local institution, with regular customers who had become friends and a reputation that attracted tourists from all over the city. My most significant innovation was the establishment of Chosen Family Sundays, a monthly event where customers could reserve the entire bakery for a shared community meal. I provided the space for bread and desserts, while guests brought dishes to share. The small business grant had funded an expanded kitchen and the addition of outdoor seating, allowing for increased production and capacity. Annie, Marcus, and a few other local business owners became my closest friends and most trusted advisors. We met once a week to discuss business challenges and successes, helping each other through the inevitable highs and lows of entrepreneurship. The idea struck a deep chord with people looking for connection in an often fragmented urban environment. Professional growth chances were made possible by Bailey's network of mentors. I was never able to get alone, and her insight enabled me to confidently handle difficult business choices. And throughout this time, my relationship with my family reached a new stage. The first major shift was when my father attended a special event at the bakery without trying to offer unsolicited business advice. The change started subtly with their gradual recognition of Sweet Gatherings as a legitimate business rather than a hobby or phase, and it was marked by careful rebuilding on my terms rather than desperate seeking of approval on theirs. "You have built something functional here." That was high praise from my father. But more importantly, he had come on his own initiative and engaged with my world without trying to remake it to his standards. He came alone, watched the operations with his analytical eye, and bought a few things before departing with a simple statement. "I informed my hospital board about your bakery," she said on one visit. For the first time, I heard a touch of true pleasure in her voice when my mother started to visit periodically with friends. A sign of social recognition that went beyond her words. A number of them have now become regular customers. "Your social media presence has serious engagement metrics." During a rare Sunday visit, Rose explained that her approach to reconciliation prioritized professional respect over personal connection. "My team actually referenced your community building strategy in a recent presentation." Later, in a more subdued tone, she added, "I think I have been comparing our accomplishments since we were kids. Tyler made the most dramatic gesture of all by flying in from New York specifically to visit the bakery, bringing his usual spreadsheets along with an unusual amount of humility. "Your financial trajectory has defied standard industry projections," he said, adding, "Maybe we could just be sisters instead of competitors." There are some lessons here for traditional business approaches. I welcomed these overtures with cautious optimism. The scars from their absence at my opening and their subsequent intervention attempt had healed, but they were still there. I was working from models that did not take into account the community investment factor you prioritized. During a particularly candid conversation, I told my father, "I am open to rebuilding our relationship, but that requires acceptance of who I actually am, as not who you wish I would become." I set boundaries around how we discussed my business and my choices, making it clear that respectful engagement was welcome, while controlling behavior was not. The journey from seeking their approval to finding my own measure of success had changed me in ways that went far beyond business ownership. But the most profound healing in my life had nothing to do with family reconciliation. Rather, it came from realizing that my value was not based on their approval. I added Eliza's Corner, a special area with my grandmother's photo recipe books, and a small library of baking resources, as Sweet Gatherings flourished. And it became the focal point of our community outreach programs, which included free baking, as well as classes for underprivileged youth, and a weekly coffee gathering for senior citizens. The quality of our goods and the deliberate development of connections that made the bakery unique were noted by the author of a national periodicals piece on community-centered business models, supporting neighborhood redevelopment, which was published a year after Sweet Gatherings opened. We held a celebration that filled the bakery and spilled out onto the sidewalk on the first anniversary of Sweet Gatherings. Marshall has not only built a successful business, but the article concluded that she has set a model for how commercial spaces can foster genuine community in an era of digital isolation. As I looked around the gathering that evening, I realized how perfectly the reality had come to match the name I had chosen. Sweet Gatherings had indeed become a place where sweetness, both literal and metaphorical, brought people together. My family did not attend as central figures, but rather as guests among many who were taking their place in the wider community that had embraced my vision. The journey had not gone as planned, but it had brought me to a place more significant than I could have ever imagined. This year, I learned more about the nature of validation and the source of genuine confidence than I did about business strategy or even baking, though it first appeared to be the biggest barrier to my success. My family's failure to see the potential in my dream actually served as the impetus for my biggest personal development. Sometimes our dreams come true not because our families are disappointed, but rather because they push us to discover our inner strength. As the anniversary celebration came to an end, I took a moment to acknowledge those who had really supported my journey. When external validation vanishes, we must learn to trust our own vision and values. That painful process of separation and self-rust ultimately leads to more authentic achievement than success that comes through conforming to others' expectations. And as this story quietly disappears into the back of your mind, vanishing into the quiet places where memory and mystery converge, you'll know that this was never just a story. It was a simple, honest connection that had become the hallmark of Sweet Gatherings, not grandiose speeches. I would love to know if any of you have had to choose between following your passion and meeting others' expectations. Did you find your own version of chosen family along the way? Every syllable is a bridge between worlds seen and unseen, between the light of disclosure and the black abyss of what stays unsaid. It is an awakening, a raw pulse of human truth shrouded in whispered secrets and hidden emotions. These digital confessions whisper into the void, where anonymity becomes the mask for truth, and every viewer becomes the keeper of secrets too heavy to carry alone. Stories breathe their most powerful magic here, stirring the deepest chambers of your soul and evoking the hidden desires, unspoken fears, and fragile hopes that cling to your heart like fragile embers. So hold on to this feeling, this electric thread of wonder and unease. And now that secret, that trembling echo of someone else's reality, becomes part of your own shadowed narrative, intertwining with your thoughts and awakening that unquestionable curiosity, the insatiable hunger to know what lies beyond, what mysteries hover just out of reach, waiting for you to uncover them, what stories have not yet been told, because it's what ties us all together in the vast, invisible web of human experience. If your heart is pounding and your thoughts are consumed by the what-ifs and the may, then you know that the story has done its job and that its magic has become ingrained in your being. Keep this in mind before you leave this world. Every story you read here is a whispered call to search further, to listen more intently, to embrace both the light and the dark. If you were lost or found yourself changed in any way, then honor this connection by sustaining the flame by, for example, watching this video. If the story made you feel uncomfortable, in order to be the first to welcome the next confession, the next shadow, or the next revelation that is waiting to emerge from the depths, you must subscribe to join the Fellowship of Seekers who pursue the unseen truths and ring the bell. Here, we do more than just tell stories. We call forth the forgotten, the hidden, and the unsaid, and you have joined this holy rite. Dear listener, so, until the next story finds you in the quiet hours, keep your senses keen, keep your heart open, and never stop searching for the whispers in the silence. Thank you for watching. Be careful. Good luck. Asterisk. Maybe after hearing today's story, you have some new questions or some old memories that you would like to revisit. Since everyone has a different life journey and tries to understand the world in their own way, new experiences and moments on Reddit, every day, create new stories and connect us all. These kinds of moments serve as a reminder that we are all human, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and always learning something new. Every story has its own unique angle, and we aim to understand everyone's perspective and make our content diverse and relatable. If you liked this story, please share it with your friends. We always appreciate your thoughts and feedback because it inspires us to create even better content. These kinds of stories help us understand that everyone's journey through life is unique, and we learn something new from hearing other people's stories. You can also share your own stories with us. Your experiences are important to us too. If you liked this video, please leave a comment. We always strive to produce content that makes you smile and inspires you. Though what we saw today was just a tiny portion of the many tales posted on Reddit and throughout the globe. Your opinion is still valuable if you have already watched this film. With each piece of feedback, we can enhance our material and give our viewers a fresh viewpoint. We hope to continue sharing stories that help us all learn and grow together. And this video was just one example of how we try to connect with others through storytelling, learning about different sides of life. It serves as a reminder of how we all try to understand life by sharing our experiences with one another. Thank you for your time. And don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon. Until the next time, be careful and remain interested. Asterisk. If you haven't already, please like and follow for more incredible material. Your support keeps us running, and we'll work to bring you more uplifting and thought-provoking tales.